much every day that I'm even not hosting the show. I am Rachel Moore. Nice to see you all today. Glad to be with you as we're enjoying, just trucking along through the calendar year. It is the second week of February already. Can you dig it? I can. I'm cool with it. I'm one of those people who really digs change. Not all change is good, but a lot of it is, I think, and at least just keeps us moving and stuff like that. So I'm big on it, but happy to be here with you as we change the calendar date every week. And we're here with you this Wednesday. We're here every Wednesday, and it is February 10th. I would love to know how everyone's New Year's resolutions are going. Kind of like how it started, how it's going meme. If you did start something in January and you intended to keep going, are you still doing it? Let us know in the comments. I will share that we did a cleanse. We did that kind of Whole30 cleanse. We did it through a particular nutrition program, and we're keeping on with it. I actually haven't had a daily cup of coffee since the start of January. I have like a cup or two a week, and that's it. I've been drinking lots of water, 4 at least of these a day. I add a little lemon juice to it, and sometimes a stevia. It makes it almost kind of taste like a really, really, really light lemonade. Nice. And I'm eating healthier, and I'm walking and stuff. So if you have a success, even if it's small, share it. That's how you make habits that are good habits and that can keep you going forward. So anyway, I know we kind of digressed on there, but again, I just want to say big welcome to everyone to Social Glue, powered by Restream. Restream is what makes this whole thing happen. I love Restream. I'm actually going to tweet out later why I love Restream. There is a big feature that they have, which is helping us broadcast the show today and be able to work with my calendar. It's really awesome. But you got to have to follow me on Twitter, Rachel Moore RS. I'll share it here on LinkedIn and put it on YouTube as well. But you gotta track and be like, okay, what are you talking about? And also I do Restream how-to videos, share those. I actually have a video about what the thing I'm going to talk about on my YouTube channel. If you're already watching this on YouTube, you're already there. Go check out the link. But Restream is awesome. Again, it brings us the show. You're going to see me demonstrate things like I just brought up a caption. I made that caption. So I got to bring that up here and put it on the screen, display it. I can display when you guys all comment. I can share my screen. I can bring people into the broadcast, lots of things. So this whole show is powered by Restream. Love Restream. Try it out. We'll talk a little bit about that later. But without further ado, I want to remind everyone what this show is all about. So Social Glue, powered by Restream, it's kind of talks about the stickiness of social, right? It just sticks us all together. And even if we're far apart, we still are glued together. And so that's what Social Glue is all about. It's not just about things, but it's about people. It's not just about apps, but about the users and the businesses and the brands and how they work and stuff like that. So every week on this show, we do a few segments. So first, we do a Social Glue news segment where we cover some of the top hits in social media news from this week. So that'll be coming up next. Then we segue into a Social Glue shout out of the week. That's one of my favorite parts, is when I'm able to bring someone on screen, a social media pro from around the globe. And I don't know all of these pros, which is the whole goal of the show. I want to know them and I want you to know them. But these are the unsung heroes of social media. So we bring them on and learn about their origin story. We also have them on for the following segment, which is the Social Glue question of the week. Now, we take questions from businesses, individuals, whatever. If you have a question about social media, we'll take them. We just ask that question here on the air. Our guest will answer it. I'll add some insight into it as well, but knowledge abounds. And then we close the show with a Social Glue haiku. Now, that's one of my favorite parts, is because haikus are easy poems to write, and I've been amazed at some of the contributions I'm getting. I have another one to share with you today. So that's the show in a nutshell. And so, that's the show in a glue bottle. Work with me on the analogies here. I want to make things line up. It's all about that consistency. So thank you all for joining. Let us hop right in to the Social Glue news segment. Now, I'm going to share my screen here, and we're going to orient this the way I want to have it. Watch, see, I can do that. And then I'm going to push the actual, I'll be on this side and that will be on that side, and I'm going in reverse order because I realize I have this on the screen. So let's just talk about Reddit. So We covered last week the fact that Reddit had a lot to do with some big goings on in the stock market. So if you hadn't heard about it, Reddit day trading was going on, and essentially here's how it happened. And it involved GameStop. So any non-gamers out there are not going to know GameStop. Essentially, it's a place where you can go buy new or used games and paraphernalia, consoles, things like that. Anytime new games are coming out or consoles, those tend to be resellers of those items. And so they just tend to be out there. And they've actually been doing kind of poorly. I mean, imagine all businesses are struggling, especially brick and mortar, during the pandemic because a lot of people aren't able to get there and be in person as much due to COVID being around. So they've obviously suffered a little bit, but for some odd reason, GameStop became the focus or a big focus of the stock market in the last 2 weeks. And the reason is Reddit. Reddit users in a subreddit called Wall Street Bets basically piled in, and these are people who trade. A lot of them have money, and so they said, "Hey, wouldn't it be funny if we push GameStop up and make all the short hedge funds that are trying to short the stock, mess up?" So it turned into a whole thing. So you guys can go watch the replay of last week and figure out, okay, what is she talking about? Plus, it is all over the news. I learned a lot about the stock market and trading and shorts. I almost want to go rewatch the movie The Big Short as a result. But what came in the wake of that is that Reddit won pretty big. So pretty sure what you're seeing on the screen, that would be my expression if I woke up and my business suddenly had a valuation of $6 billion, which was twice what it was, and had a $250 million increase in their shares and their stock worth. So I'd be happy. I'd probably be a little happy, a little thunderstruck, be like, oh my God, that's mine. That's mine. But that's where Reddit is sitting right now. It does come in the wake of all that trading. Apparently everyone realized, oh my gosh, is Reddit still a thing? Reddit has long been known as the front page of the internet. It's funny because one of my good friends loves Reddit. She's on it all the time. I go to it once in a while, and I find that it's one of those apps where when you get to it and you get into it, you realize, oh my gosh, why wasn't I here before? I love this. I really do like it. I'm one of those people who loves message boards, asynchronous, where you can like reply to people. It also lets you upvote. It's a little bit like Quora, where you can upvote people's replies. And essentially that's what happened that pushed all of this into the fore. But it's great. I mean, it's a great place to go to congregate, to talk about stuff, to share memes. Oh my gosh, one of our favorite YouTube pastimes for YouTube is watching videos I found on Reddit, which is a YouTube channel. So it's really good. Also, something to consider, and I'm talking to businesses right now too. And businesses, be careful with Reddit because you can't just sweep in there and start being like, my stuff's cool, buy it. No. But Reddit, as of October 2020, had increased their user base by 44% from the year before. Imagine that. They almost took 50% more users in the space of 1 year on the whole platform. That's big. It's big time. But again, if you're a business or a brand and now you're like, ooh, Reddit, I should have that on my radar. You can totally advertise on Reddit. Absolutely. If you plan to organically go on Reddit, again, it is not the place to go in and just drop stuff, non sequiturs, no segues, no context. Say, hey, my stuff's cool, buy it. I saw a tweet yesterday. Someone said, if only all of us would approach all social media apps the way we approach Reddit, where you don't roll in like a troll. You come in for community and you come in to develop rapport, and credibility and get your karma up, your karma score up because people upvote your answers. So please use it wisely. But if Reddit hasn't been on your radar, why not? It should be now. So that's one story we've got going on this week. The next one, and let me see if I can get in here. I'm going backwards on my slides that I'm sharing. Newsletters. Okay, so I would love to know if anyone watching this video has a newsletter that you do. Now, maybe you do it for a brand. Maybe you do it for yourself. Like something that you craft, publish, and push out, and you have a list that it goes to. Okay. Substack has been something I've been seeing a lot of lately, where people are using it kind of like, they would use Medium or Patreon or things like that, where you can create kind of that gated content that you have subscribers who pay or just at least subscribe to see. So guess who wants to get on in this action? Of course, it's Facebook and Twitter. So for journalists, publishers, and writers that do use tools like Medium or Substack, things like that, Facebook and Twitter are competing for that attention and are offering you to have your own newsletter right there in the platform. So this comes from Twitter's latest acquisition of a tool called Revue, Revue, and basically it means that you can set up a newsletter all within the confines of the Twitter app. Facebook works the same way. You can do your newsletter all within the confines of Facebook.com. So the goal is, obviously these social apps they don't want people leaving Facebook. They don't want people leaving Twitter. Typically when people have their newsletters and they're sharing it on social, their link takes them away from that social app, right? Twitter and Facebook don't want that. Obviously, they want to keep people's eyeballs in the platform. And so they are offering this to journalists and publishers and writers. And we were just talking about this in our Confessions of Social Media Marketing Managers group on Facebook, that how's this going to work? This will have impacts on the algorithm. And kind of decide, if people are putting publications out there, what are you going to see? Will you see more from that person then? So it probably has some aspects to it where it's like, hey, I'm seeing more news. And remember, seeing news, and I say quote unquote news because obviously there's a lot of news of all kinds. There's actual news, there's fake news, there's conspiracy news, which is not actually news, it's just tinfoil hat stuff. But a lot of that has been rife on social media platforms, more so in the last few years than it has been, but it's been growing always. How is this going to impact that? I mean, I kind of wonder what vetting process they're going to go through to make sure someone's not like, well, I'd like to put out my, Jewish space laser beam news out there on my newsletter, and I'm going to use Twitter and Facebook to do it. I would hope that they would be like, no, again, that's not actual news. Gets all into that other topics that we talked about on the show before. But again, it is going to impact things. And so it'll be really interesting to see how that works. And of course, the fear is this going to compete or copy from other people that already have a handle on this, that already have created these platforms for you to publish newsletters on, like Substack or Medium? Yeah, it's going to make everybody be like, oh God, can they compete? Can they say, well, I can give you this for cheaper than Facebook's offering it for? Remember, nothing's free on Facebook. Nothing's free on any social app. The currency is your data. You're giving them your data so that you can play for free. So it'll be interesting to do that. Speaking of free and playing for free, see, when I go backwards, everything's messed up. But I'm showing you guys how to do this. So Twitter, this has been in the air for a while, that they would like to possibly introduce a subscription tier to their users service. So right now you can go sign up for Twitter for free right now. Not technically free because you give them an email. Now they have your email. And then of course, as you interact on Twitter, all of your activity is tracked. But what they're looking at doing, and they've been talking about this for a little over a year, but now it looks like this year they're going to start kind of rolling it out to certain users and testing it, is they want to add a subscription tier. And if you pay for the subscription to be a subscribed user of Twitter, it could give you certain aspects where you could have where you could pay to have premium features. Easy for me to say. You could invite tipping. We've seen tipping happen on Periscope. There's super chats on YouTube and things like that, where you can actually monetize what you're doing on Twitter. Undo send. So instead of giving us an edit button, they're going to do what Gmail already offers for free, which is, I don't know if you know this, everyone, but you can do a setting in Gmail what lets you undo a send of an email. It gives you up to 30 seconds to undo a send. So if you send something like, oh no, I forgot an attachment, or oh no, that went to the wrong person, you can undo a send and then like it never happened. Apparently they're offering that, or could offer that, through a subscription of Twitter, which would be really handy because usually once you tweet something out, you do realize right away that it was wrong. Hello, all social media managers who have ever posted incorrectly to a brand versus your own account that you manage. Also, premium feature could be premium access to TweetDeck. I haven't used TweetDeck in over a decade, I think. I know it's still out there, but it's very, it's for when you want to join a Twitter chat or publish, schedule, watch certain Twitter feeds, things like that. It does make it a lot easier. So maybe some premium features to that. So Twitter's been talking about that. And again, we just brought it up. Social apps have heretofore been free to users, as in, I'm giving you my data so that I can use this for free as I will. Is this going to be a harbinger of what's to come on other apps? Would Facebook ever go to a subscription tier? Interesting. YouTube does have some stuff, like they've got YouTube TV and YouTube for kids and things like that. You can pay to have more of a premium thing where you're not seeing ads and things like that. If they did a thing where I didn't have to see ads, that would be interesting to me. Which that'd have to be subscription tier, because that's again how these platforms make their money. So, how is this going to impact businesses who want to use Twitter for, and not a lot of them do. I did see Morning Brew was interesting this morning. I love that they were covering just about everything we were talking about today. They did talk about Twitter. It's still tiny. I mean, compared to a behemoth like Facebook, it is not a huge mainstream platform, social platform. So it makes sense if your brand is not using it. It makes sense for some brands to use Twitter. Journalists, for sure. I mean, we were just talking about newsletters and things like that. Tech, absolutely. And of course, people who are working in marketing and advertising like to frequent on Twitter. Just because our former president was a prolific misuser, I will say, of Twitter, doesn't mean that it's uber popular and like, oh my gosh, every brand should be on it. I don't think they should. But if your brand is on it, would this pay to play or pay for a premium subscription service on Twitter make a difference to you? I would say creators probably would be eyeballing that tipping feature a little bit. I mean, that's how they're making money on Twitch and YouTube and things like that. So interesting stuff with the news. So thank you all for I'm going to breeze right on through all my my stuff there, so you guys, and see, I can just take this off the screen and now it's just you and me. But thank you. And if you happen to think of something that we didn't cover in the news and you'd like us to make sure we do a rundown for the next show, please put it in the comments and we'll take it and add it to our rundown on the Social Glue news segment. So typically what I do next on the show is I have our Social Glue shout out guest. Now there are going to be some weeks, things happen. I'll just be honest. I usually do this live broadcast. I'm going to be totally transparent here. Usually do this. This is a live broadcast on my lunch hour on Wednesday. So I go live at noon Mountain Standard Time or Mountain Daylight Time, time change, whatever. I go live at noon in Mountain Time Zone. I actually had a meeting land on my calendar today that I really need to be at noon. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm recording this and you're watching the recorded video or the recorded show, and you're watching it as a live stream. That Restream is allowing me to do that. So I am recording the show. And so I'm also this week, I typically, I always like to have a guest on, because look, the whole goal of this show, I would say 75% goal of this show is to bring spotlight to social pros that you don't know about yet. Everyone deserves to have people see what they're capable of and recognize it and applaud it, and maybe even ask them if they could give services for that, because like, hey, you can do this and I can't, can I pay you to do it? So I do not have a social shout out guest today. But I always am looking for Social Glue shout out guests. And so I would love to invite all of you, if you want to be a Social Glue shout out guest for the week. All you need to do is visit really.social/social glue, and you can sign up, or hey, just let me know in the comments, say, hey, I want to be on the show, and we'll get you the link to be on the show. But that's what we're talking about today. But I am going to be the single person here. And I want you to know, if you go watch some of our past shows, you're going to see that, it's really more interesting when, Rachel, you have someone to talk to and you have that featured person on the show to bounce off of and feature and talk about their origin stories. Everyone's is different. And that's been really interesting. So if you feel like, well, I could make this show more interesting, Rachel, I can sit in that seat with you and you can bring me on the screen and we could talk about stuff. I am happy to bring you on. So please make sure you go visit, and I'm going to just use something. Here we go. Watch this. I can do this right now. So I'm going to do this, be a Social Glue shout out guest. And I'm going to put in, so it's http://really.social/social glue. Okay. I just added that caption. Boop. And now I'm going to display it on the screen. Ta-da. See how easy that was? So again, I try to be as interesting as possible and knowledgeable. It's just way more interesting when there's another person on the screen with me. So be that shout out guest. If you are a social media pro, you are a pro. If you work in social media, you are a pro and you deserve to be in this spotlight. So please go sign up. It's a really easy form. You go through Calendly and you decide what date you can be on the show. Again, it's like at noon Mountain Time. There are ways to work around that because, as I mentioned, we can pre-record the show and broadcast it live later. So if you happen to be in a time zone that's like, oh my God, that's like 1 a.m. for me, we can talk. Let's talk and make it work. So with that, let's move on to what we would normally do with a guest on the screen with me. What we're still going to do today because questions are important. And we're going to talk about the social glue question of the week. So let me bring back up my screen and I'll just do again. I can put it over here and make it all pretty the way I want it to be. All right. So this week's social glue question. And again, we always try to come at this from a standpoint of what is helpful for a brand or business to know. Most of us are probably doing social for a brand or business, whether it's our own brand or business or someone else's. So what comes first for a brand using social, data or strategy? Well, it's almost like what comes first, the chicken or the egg. Now, your strategy can absolutely drive data. It can drive those results, but your best bet, especially if you're coming into a brand or starting to do social first, do some research. Absolutely. And even if you have absolutely nothing, there's ways to start with that. You could do a survey for free. SurveyMonkey has free subscription, I think, where you can do a very simple branded as SurveyMonkey. You can totally do it. Do surveys. You can use Microsoft Forms to do surveys. Google Forms totally lets you do surveys. So surveying whatever audience you are intending to address. Okay. So surveys are great, and incentivize the surveys too. You could say, hey, please fill out the survey. We're going to choose a random winner to win a $50 Amazon gift card. People would do that. A lot of people, especially the shorter and sweeter the survey, the better. Google Analytics, if this in any way relates to a website of a brand that is like the owned ground that you are going to be trying to market toward or advertise toward, make sure Google Analytics is set up, because then you can see who's visiting your website. You can learn a lot about those people. There's a demographics tool in Google Analytics that'll tell you the person who visited your website, they're also interested in pop culture, in shopping, in dining, in cooking, and things like that. You get a ton of information from Google Analytics, and that is free to set up. All you need is a Gmail account. Okay, so just go set up a gmail.com for free, and now you can add a Google Analytics to any website that you have control over. So surveys, you can poll people. Okay. But again, you need to start with some data. There needs to be a little bit of insight. Now, granted, if you are someone who's working in capacity, you have absolutely no access to any of that stuff. You're like, well, crud, what do I do? You can start building data. Okay. Start putting stuff out there and see how it works. That's the key to social media strategy. So that's why I would say data comes first, because whatever you do, you should be looking at the data, because the data is not going to lie to you. Okay. We've referred to many times Facebook is not necessarily a social media networking app. It's a data app. Okay. It has so much data on all the people of this planet who are using or have ever touched Facebook or really any website that is connected to Facebook. Yeah, it's creepy. But that is a gold mine, and they're using that, and that's how they survive. That's how they are successful. And the same thing goes for you. Any information you can get about the audience that you are trying to reach and get to do stuff is going to help you. Okay. It's why you always see where if you happen to mention or look up something. What was I researching the other day? We were researching weather in the Sand Dunes National Park here in Colorado, because we were like, oh, could we take our camping trailer out there? It's cold, but could we take it and do that? So now in my Google Now feed and in Facebook, I'm starting to see different articles about saying, hey, here's the top 10 ways to enjoy Sand Dunes National Park. So it tracks what I was looking at, and now it's serving me stuff that I probably would find interesting if I'm like, well, yeah, I am planning to go to Sand Dunes National Park. Maybe not this weekend, but soon. This would be helpful information. See what I mean? That's all currency. So you have to use data. And if you don't have a whole lot of data, build it. Start testing stuff out. Testing is a huge thing. Please, and any social media pro knows this too. So I'm preaching to the choir, but those of you who do not do social media, we never spray it and forget it. We never just like, oh, let's push stuff out. That'll get the word out. And then not look at if anyone even digested that social post or responded to that social ad. If no one's clicking on your stuff, you're not doing it right. And that's good data. That's great data to say, okay, we're doing it wrong. I do some email marketing, and if I see an open rate that's under 10%, I'm like, okay, that wasn't that great. I need to do better next time. Okay. So it is data. And then when you have that data, your strategy needs to pivot, because again, you have in mind goals, something we don't have on the question. But if you look at the data and you say, okay, my data is telling me that people of a certain age demographic visit my website, that's actually not my target audience. Okay. What is your target audience? Who are you trying to reach? And if you know that it's different than what your data is telling you, you need to change your content and you need to change your strategy. Be like, okay, good. Well, what do I need to put out there that's going to entice the demographic that I need to come to my website? All right. That's how you do. You got to pivot. Now, some of this isn't going to be from your own data. There's tons of free or even some gated research out there. Again, it's cost you an email address. And then, of course, getting those in your inbox. You can unsubscribe if you want, but at least getting the report. There's a lot of data out there and research people are doing on the topics that you care about. Go do some research and learn what you need to know that can help you determine and drive your strategy to say, okay, my data told me I'm not hitting the goal I want. I need to change my strategy so that then use the data to say, did it work? Did I change? Did I pivot? So I would say data first. Always try to get data first and keep using the data. It's not like the data goes away, but it's, your goals are really important to that too. So again, that was me answering this week's question of the week. I would love to hear any insights from anyone watching this too in the comments. If you have additional, because again, this show is for social pros by social pros. And I know a lot of you are really good experts in these areas. So please disagree with me, emphasize whatever. I would love to hear it. And it's all helpful stuff here. So with that, I'm going to say one last thing about Restream. Again, I just really encourage you to try out Restream for yourself. I have my own little code you can try out. It's a short link, bit.ly/ all lowercase. Rachel uses Restream. Go try this out. You can try it for free for a little bit and see how you like it. And I love it because I can broadcast to up to 30 channels if I wanted to. Usually I do 3. Maybe I'm going to do 2 this week. I don't know. I'm going to decide. But it's really just a toggle of the switch and then it broadcasts out for me. It's pretty cool. So check it out. And then lastly, we're going to talk about our haiku of the week. This week's haiku. And I'd love to remind everyone that you can submit your own haiku. Remember, a haiku is probably one of the easiest poems to ever write. And people who are poetry fanatics probably yelling at me right now saying, it's not. Come on, it's an art form. True. I'm not a poet. It's easy for me to write a haiku. So that's where I'm coming from. A haiku is 3 lines of poetry. First line is 5 syllables. The second line is 7 syllables. The third line is 5 syllables again, and they don't have to rhyme. So this week's social glue haiku comes from Gabriela Cardoza on Twitter, and she's at Cardoza Gab. But here's her haiku, which I love this. Share this cat photo on our brand page. Really? No way. I can't, boss. Now, this is timely because there was this fun thing, and I want to close the show with this to make sure all of you realize what it is. But there was this really fun thing that happened just yesterday, apparently via a Zoom meeting, and then it took to the social webs, and I shared it too. And it was just one of those kind of cathartic, like, oh my God, we've all been there, and it was hilarious. So this was timely, but thank you, Gabriela, for this awesome haiku. Share this cat photo on our brand page. Really, no way I can't, boss. It's when brands are trying to be relevant and be trendy and be like, oh my God, we should totally do that meme that everyone's, laughing at. Examine and see if you should. Okay. But that's all we have for today. Again, I had no guests today, but I have guests a lot. So if you would like to share the seat with me, make sure you visit our website. Also remember that we are on every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time. It's 12 p.m. noon my time in Mountain, but I like to do Eastern because that's New York. Everybody gets it. But so 2 p.m. Eastern, LinkedIn and YouTube, and we're broadcasting right here every Wednesday. Social Glue powered by Restream. Thank you all for joining and watching and sharing. Love you when you share the show. And remember, our guests, I just want to put that one shout out again. Our guests actually get entered into a random prize drawing every month to get free use of Restream, t-shirts, swag bags, things like that. So there's additional payoffs for you. But loved being on the show with all of you today. Thank you so much for joining, and I will catch you next week right here on Social Glue powered by Restream.